All right, here's how this episode's going to work. The first part is going to be about the 10th anniversary Undertale stream that happened over the weekend. And then the second part is going to be about Off. That was originally going to be the whole episode, but obviously this stream intruded on our plans. There are no Off spoilers in the first part, so if you haven't beat Off yet and you intend to, you can listen. We're gonna, actually call out the break where we go into the second part of the episode. So please feel free to listen up until then. Don't think there's any content warnings really for either part of this episode. I mean, there's some swearing and spoilers in the first part for Undertale and Deltarune, and spoilers in the second part for Off. Music is by Highwell in the introduction, and that's it. Let's go into the show. Welcome to Survey Program. I want to start this episode by saying that I was super busy at work today and didn't get the chance to rewatch anything. So if I get any details wrong, you are legally not allowed to be mad at me. You have to be okay with it. I might not remember all the details exactly. I've tried to collect all the stuff that I really wanted to. But first, let's introduce our guest, Neptune. How are you?
I am doing pretty all right. Woke up pretty late today, and also did not really rewatch much of the previous VODs. But unlike Kate, you are allowed to be mad at me for that because I have no excuse other than I was tired. So.
And Neptune, you weren't one of the stories in our first episode, so give me some background. Like, what was your first exposure with Undertale?
It released when I was like in high school, like I was like sophomore year, maybe junior year. I was like friends with like a lot of like, people that I don't talk to anymore, sadly. But we all got like really, really into Undertale in that sense. Like the fandom like phenomenon basically of Undertale, like I've experienced it through there, like in real life too, like which is very strange to say the least. Nowadays, I don't feel like as insane of a fan of Undertale as most other people, but I still think it is a very, very good game. And if you haven't played it yet, you probably should. And also, I should finish it myself.
I was never super hardcore into the Undertale fandom, right? I mentioned this on episode 1 as well.
Yeah.
But it's like I played it the first day it came out. I loved it. I was always super emotionally impacted by the game, right? But I didn't do I didn't do a lot of fan stuff, but it was still super inspirational for me in terms of like refining my desire to go make my own stuff, right? And that stuff wasn't really in like the Undertale sandbox exactly, but it's always so inspirational. And I don't know, getting to go back and experience it again through the lens of this stream is like an awesome experience for like I don't know, I got really emotional at the end for sure, like and
me too. For context, I did not watch the first stream because there was an outage in my area, so I literally was unable to watch it while it was on, but I did catch up on the second stream. And yeah, the Azrael fight, like when his theme starts playing, like that never fails to make me fucking tear up in any other context. But like the new lines for Azrael for the 10th anniversary stream that are like modded in there, that fucking got me good. Like Jesus Christ, man.
That was super impactful, and that's just one of the many changes to the game. I think when they streamed Deltarune Chapter 1 for a previous anniversary, and there were some minor changes, and they were all really silly stuff, right? It was all kind of goofy stuff, but there was some real shit going on in this stream that really changed the game. And
yeah, it made everyone in the chat go absolutely insane. Especially since like the people that were playing the game were not saying anything for some parts.
yeah, when the couch just got completely silent during the new stuff or during the especially impactful stuff, that was crazy.
It was it was for Old Home especially, like when that first started appearing, and
Yeah.
then no one was saying anything when they got the toy knife in like this completely new building
Yeah.
that was not there before. It was like, okay, I guess we're just not gonna acknowledge this.
Yeah. And I think the funniest thing is looking at the credits and realizing that they were keeping it together for that whole stream while Spampton was one of the camera operators, while Wayne Radio TV was the camera operator in full Spampton makeup and costume. That's so funny to realize that that was happening right off screen the whole time.
No, yeah, like I personally could not do it, like keep it together. Like I don't know, it's just like especially since like there are moments where like he was like in like the background too and just like doing like pantomiming shit like behind the couch while everyone else was talking as if nothing was going on. I was like, I don't know how y'all do it.
Yeah. And I like that, I loved that sort of detail that the fan gamer guys, the three dads, the guys on the couch were sort of his like old forum friends, like kind of like his older forum friends from when he was on Starman, when Toby was on starman.net as a teen. That story about one of them like calling Toby's, like trying to get Toby's parents on the, like Toby calling and trying to get his parents on the phone to be like, look, these guys aren't gonna murder me, was extremely funny, and I don't know, very relatable as like a a kid growing up online.
Yeah, like meeting friends online for the first time. It's just like, I promise you, they're normal.
Yeah. The first so the first half of the stream there were some new areas, right? We got that mysterious area in New Home. We had Hotland High, which was very funny. They've got the mascot, they've got Fiery and the fire fountains. And and Birdley's mom? Question mark?
It definitely does look like Birdley's mom, which like if Birdley's mom is a teacher, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but also, where the hell is she in Deltarune then?
Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows?
I mean, we didn't see Susie in the Undertale 10th anniversary stream either, so it's like,
But we did see Noelle. We did see baby Noelle.
Standing behind a little Christmas tree, and everyone walked past her 3 times total.
Yeah. That was very funny. And they walked by, we saw the Gaster door, and it was fully colored in. They got the wrong number song, but the reference to the call for G was replaced to a reference to the musician of the remix.
And
so
which is pretty cool.
That was a great remix, but it felt very much like also Donkey Kong is my favorite Marvel superhero. They felt like it felt like it was very much calling attention to like, here's all the Gaster shit that we're not going to do, and we're just gonna not acknowledge it at all. It's very funny.
It was very funny, like especially since like everyone was like losing their minds at it, and I know that like the door being colored in has some kind of relevance, especially with like in Deltarune Chapter 3, it's like the reference of like copies are monochrome and stuff.
And also the Goners being monochrome. Gaster's Gooners being monochrome.
I guess just Gooners. The Gooner vessel, if you will.
Yeah.
But I unfortunately, like I said, I am not insane enough of an Undertale fan to really be like really discern like the actual relevance and like theorize and everything. I don't want to go like because the currents are blue dipshit to that kind of thing, but also it's like you can never really know when it comes to Toby Fox and his games with like the Russian roulette of relevancy. I don't know.
I think that this is really the level that Toby works at, where that these sort of symbolic and like allegorical stuff is how his stories are structured and communicated. And so I think all those little changes, many of them are silly, but many of them are meaningful too. And so it's cool to see all the little changes. And then I feel like day 2 got a lot more substantive.
For sure. That was the stream that I tuned in for.
Yeah. The first thing is that I just want to say Toby got into the lab and cooked up 3 ships to talk about on the stream, and the 3 ships were extreme. The 3 ships that he chose to talk about mostly were extremely funny. One was Sans Alphys hetslop, which I'm gonna be honest with you, it is premier hetslop.
It is. It really is.
It is, like, basically implying that in, like, the Queen Alphys ending where Undyne and Toriel are dead, that, they're a thing. Which made that one science people's person on Twitter very happy, I'm sure.
You know what? I understand them as a fellow scientist like myself.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great. I think it's super compelling, and their relationship is really awesome. And I also think it's really funny that Sans really only gets... Sans only gets hetslop. It's Toriel and Alphys. That's really it.
Yeah, and it's kind of fucking awesome, actually. Especially since, like, there was always some weird, like, stuff going on between them anyways in the original game, too. So it's, like, the fact that Toby Fox was, like, talking about it, but, like, sort of all cheekily, like, oh, I feel like there's something going on between them. It's like, you feel like it. My guy, you're the one who made them.
I totally relate to that because that's how I talk about my own characters and stories too. It's like I love to just shoot the shit and kind of just speculate about the my own writing in ways that make people that I don't want to be seen as like making a definitive statement. And that I think that was a really consistent theme of this story of this stream was like, this is not these aren't quote unquote canon or the only way that you can see things, and that's also not like a playable update you can have, right? It's just exploring new avenues and ways that this story could go, and also providing some more, peeking behind the curtain and providing like, here's some more places where, here's some signs that the underground is way bigger than what you see. Here's some more little details about what might have happened before. The frogget and the ruins at the ending walkback, talking about the 6 human souls that came before, and how they all it all just felt kind of like a love letter to taking this story and making more of it, and not from just one definitive authoritative source, but like just imagining the world is bigger.
And of course we have to talk about the Gerson stuff.
Like, yes, well, so that's the third of the 3. That's the Toby's life-changing ships. But first, I want to talk about number 2, which was a ship that I'm lovingly calling HR Violation, which was Toby out of nowhere cooks up Meta Pants as his favorite pizza pants ship, which is crazy. Which is crazy. Okay, man.
It's crazy. Like, of all like the ships, like, but also like Toxic Yaoi is like I'm not gonna turn my nose up on that.
Absolutely. And look, we don't know what the MTT Resort workplace relationships policy is, so we're only speculating that it's an HR violation.
It's HR violation with an asterisk at the end.
No, that's hilarious, though. I think generally, like, if you think about your own story for long enough, you start finding compelling stuff that's just, like, totally in the weeds. Like, all the obvious avenues have been explored by your brain already, so you're like, fuck it, Meta Pants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then seeing like people I have seen fan art of Meta Pants before and stuff, so it's like I have no doubt.
Well, I mean, of course, they're 2 male characters in the same story. Of course, people ship them. Like,
of course, yeah. Like people will find any like straw to pick for ships in these games.
And there's not nothing there. This isn't pure like 2 guys who stood next to each other one time. There's not nothing there. There's something there.
Yeah, no.
I want to,
something.
Yeah, I'll give traditional Tony some credit for cooking a little bit there.
Yeah.
Especially since it seems like we're still getting nice pants in Deltarune. So no need to worry, nice pants shippers.
But Burger Pants has 2 hands. And also, what would it be like? is it actually HR if it's just two monsters? Like, is it MR violations? I don't know.
God damn it!
Like, something to think about.
That is something to think about. That's a really great. You really changed the game on this discussion here. It's monsters can't have HR violations, so clearly they're safe. But then, of course, the third life-changing ship that Toby dropped on us on the stream was Gerson and the intro mage, and that was never ever precedented. Nobody had seen that coming. But also, I mean, what Gerson said there totally appended the sort of the rules and what we understand of the history of the setting. Like, if you want to take that, if you take that, what Gerson's talking about is truth, and it's such a great. It fits hand in glove so well.
He's making points.
His role in Deltarune.
He's making points.
Right. But his lines, and you wrote them down here. Our history wasn't all written down quite right. The pages changed, things got sanded down, and important things were forgotten, maybe on purpose. The other side sacrificed a lot to get us down here. Rumor had it even used up all their magic. Not sure, though, I wasn't there. Humans and monsters weren't always all enemies. When the barrier was made, old friendships were broken, old business partners lost, even some married couples were. I even knew one of the people doing the sealing. Seeing them in that beautiful magician outfit for the first time, for the last time, and at such a moment. It felt strange, I tell ya.
Yeah.
So,
which is just like insane. Like that was like the one moment where it's like when everyone on the couch was silent, I was like also silent because I needed to lock in and pay attention to what old man Gerson was going to say, because we all knew that he was going to drop some shit on us, and oh boy, did he do that.
Yeah. And it just reminds me, there's the parallel with, Gerson's lines in Deltarune of, about Dragon Blazers changing the story of so they changed parts of the story. Of course, the biggest fans got mad, but isn't it interesting? The book was already just an interpretation of something else. Stories can be retold. They can be changed. That's what I believe.
Yeah. And not to mention that, like, it's not something that can also just be completely discredited either, because it also serves as a potential explanation for why Chris and Deltarune cannot use magic. Like, they have a magic stat that can be increased or decreased, but they don't have any magic skills. So it's like that serves as like a possible explanation.
Monsters
for why
don't
Chris
have magic in
have
Deltarune either, and so I think the relationship between the rules of those two settings is definitely unclear at this point. But I really appreciated this change because I really appreciated this sort of illumination of this story, because it seems to imply, rather than being like all out like war, it was a much more complicated situation. And the specific phrase, the other side sacrificed a lot to get us down here, not seal it, it seems like there was some benefit to being there, and perhaps they were being protected from a bigoted human government, right? Or something like that, right? That there was, rather than being pure prisoners, there was an element of protection, and actually humans sacrificed a lot to try to protect monster kind in that time. And I think that's a really interesting and beautiful story, and a lot of... I don't know, I really dug it, and getting to see Gerson, with an overworld sprite in Undertale. Look, Gerson was one of my favorite characters in Undertale, right? He was one of my favorite, like, little glup shittos. I loved, he was not an important character, but I loved his, the connection that you felt through Gerson to the past of the setting. And the way that just his existence in the game made the story feel more in-depth and more detailed. And so Gerson...
It makes a whole lot of sense with like his connection to history, and how like even in real life, like history gets like rewritten and stuff.
Yeah.
And like that's really important to like be critical of. And obviously in this context, it's like, about like, a video game with like a really compelling story and stuff, but like it is still something to like consider in the real world too, and that's a very important skill to have and keep in mind.
Yeah. But it's just like, as someone who really liked Gerson coming into this year, this 2025 has been an unbelievable feast for me. Like, just, like just seeing that there was, some like just seeing that Alvin was important in the start of chapter 4, made me think, oh, that's so great. I really like that. That's nice. And I was already touched by the gravestone and the bench in Deltarune chapter 1 and 2. And then Gerson actually showing up in Deltarune, I was like, oh my god, it's incredible. It's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
And all this Gerson feasting is absolutely awesome. It's so good.
Yeah, no, like if people were not a fan of Gerson beforehand, which by the way, how? Then they definitely should be after chapter 4.
Yeah.
Like he's just so wonderful and great, and I'm so glad that we get to have the 3 flavors of ships in the Undertale 10th anniversary stream, which is hetslop, toxic workplace yaoi, and old man / non-binary yaoi.
Yeah. Really great spread there. And there was so much other stuff. I'm trying to sort through it all. There was some great new Sans and Papyrus stuff.
Yes.
All the Sans rooms were hilarious. All the Sans escalating challenges were hilarious, and of course it resulted in a fully playable and devilishly hard pacifist Sans fight being released for in-browser play.
Yeah. Which is really, really cool, especially since, like, a lot of reason why, like, Megalodon, like, the No Mercy Sans fight is playable on browser because someone made that playable on there so that you could practice that. So it is really cool that we got now 2 Sans fights that can be played on your Windows browser whenever you want.
Yeah. And the and I think that's so cool, and it's such a testament to like how integrated this event was with fans in the Undertale modding scene, right? Like the lead developer of Undertale Yellow and one of the developers of Ribbit and Undertale Mod were part of the 3-person team that was programming this mod. And it's just so cool and so great to see like that sort of interplay between the modding scene and the quote unquote official side of the game, right? Come together like this, and to have some browser playable Undertale battles is awesome. But then also we got a ton of news. We got new Sans lines and sprites.
Yes,
in the year 2025.
The one of like Sans on the floor kicking his feet like a little high school girl, like it's gonna live in everyone's minds forever.
Yeah,
it's such a good sprite.
It's so good. And all the new sprites are downloadable too, except for the Gastrodor and Noel. Those are not in the package that can be downloaded from the website.
Which is incredibly interesting,
Yeah, it is very, very interesting, isn't it? The soundtrack is also available. It's new tracks by Toby Fox, by Carlos Insane in the Rain, and by Camellia, the Wrong Number remix, with some with MIDI arrangement by Marcy Neighbors, for several tracks as well. And those are available for download too. Like a lot of new, I think it's like 10 new tracks in the game, I think.
Yeah, there's quite
13
of,
new tracks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this was such a big event, and it was so crazy and fun and awesome to see. And there was a ton of talk from Toby clearly thought it was hilarious how just YEA sounded in the TTS voice, and so he would just say all the time.
Yeah, like it's god damn it, now I have to keep a lookout for every time I'm about to say in response, like I'm listening. It's the new
Yeah,
I can't do that shit anymore because people are gonna make fun of me for it.
Clairevoire drew dog food.
But yeah, there was also a lot of talk about there was always the donation war between the fallen human name between Togor and Kara, and we all know what the correct option was, which is Kara.
Well, it was funny because it was Togor, or as the TTS voice said, Toguri. For the Toguri for the entirety of the the start of the stream. During the silly parts, it's fine that it's Togor, but Toby was clearly putting a finger on the scale of let's make sure it's Kara for the new Azrael lines that I've written.
Like by like the True Lab, like by the end of the True Lab, I think that's like when like the war was over, and like that was around that point. Toby was like, "Please let Kara win," and like I think he was completely right for that because otherwise, like I would not have taken the Asriel lines in the battle nearly as seriously if it was Togori.
And I think one of the things that maybe surprised me the most in this stream was the tons and tons of acknowledgement of Kara as a character. Because Toby did not talk much about the first fallen human, Kara, and in public since the game's release, right? Like very little in terms of public statement or discussion or additional commentary. And so I think a lot of people assume that Kara was like a sort of a Gaster level character who wasn't going to get a lot of, new stuff. But instead, Toby seemed really excited to talk about Kara on this stream, which was great. He called them that sweet little chocolat, which was adorable. There was the sort of the confirmation that you're like calling out to Kara to try to end the fight with hyper death Asriel was really adorable. The new like, Asriel lines and the new Asriel lines about not wanting to grow up without them.
After like many years since Undertale had released too, which really hit hard, and that's also like kind of an insane little confirmation, quote unquote, of like Kara being the one that's the somebody else being saved instead of just Asriel, because it always made sense that it was Asriel being saved in that context. But like for it to be also Kara, it's like it breaks the heart even more than it already was from that fight.
Yeah. And I think my favorite quote from the whole stream was just Toby saying, "Maybe Kara wasn't the greatest person, but I will shoot out a giant rainbow-colored laser to get them to stay by my side for a moment longer. Okay."
He is so real for that. Because Kara really is just like, it's kind of like what Toby said about Alphys in the lesbian tutorial, like I really like Alphys because she's a flawed character. I really like Kara because they are also a very flawed character, but also like the reason for their motivations, like which is made more clear when you talk to Asriel around the end at the flower bed at the start of the game. It's like, yeah, it kind of makes sense why you are the way that you are. And you know what? I love you. I'm sorry. Yeah. I hope that you're okay now.
Yeah, it's very sweet and it's so empathetic, and it's a great example that there's no true evil in Undertale that can't be overcome with empathy, and I think it's just such a sweet and wonderful message.
Yeah.
And actually there wasn't...
It's touched many people too.
Yeah, and there wasn't much Frisk talk, kind of surprisingly. I think that was one of the surprises for me.
We do know one line that they said, though.
That and not Mario. Famous quote from this game. The only thing that the main character says. That and not Mario.
That and not Mario towards Sans.
Yeah. But the Sans, the Sans saying after one of the pacifist fights in the donation incentive was, "You look like you were having fun. I don't know if it's good to have fun fighting, though." Just a little bit of confirmation that, like, Frisk is having fun in the battles. That I think that was a pretty common sort of headcanon that people had. And by the way, I do want to say, when I say confirmation about stuff in the stream, I mean it very loosely, right? I sort of maybe more affirmation than confirmation, right? With the perspective that Toby has.
Soft confirmation, like not like an outright, this is what exactly happens in the story and I'm saying this as the author.
Yeah. It's more of like, I see you in the way that the story has gone, and that acknowledging those sort of interpretations that have happened. And one of the things that I really liked about the stream too was there was so much discussion and highlighting of the other contributors to the game. I think a lot of people, even myself, can be pretty guilty of thinking that Undertale is just Toby and Timmy. And it was great to get a shout out to all the other contributors, including Clairevoire, who drew dog food.
And
all the folks who sort of made all the parts of the game work and inspired various character designs, and contributed to art beyond just Toby and Timmy.
Yeah, and even certain characters like Glide, who we've got a fully colored sprite after 10 years, and
I
wow.
never even considered that Glide could be pride flag colored. Maybe I am
But
a
it
bad
looks
person.
fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Maybe I am a bad person for not thinking that.
He looks freaking awesome, that's for sure. The Glide is out. Is
Mm-hmm.
Glide he, him? Let's go to undertale.wiki. Is Glide ever referred to with pronouns?
With pronouns? I don't know.
Let's see. Glide is referred to as both it, its, and he, him. So.
Okay. So cool. It, he, king, awesome.
It, he, king, Glide. Thank you, undertale.wiki. By the way, if you ever use the Undertale fandom wiki, stop that shit. Undertale.wiki and Deltarune.wiki are so much better.
Yep, true. Fuck fandom wiki.
But in addition, there was a lot of talk about the games that inspired Undertale. And there was, talk about a lot of JRPGs, many of which I haven't played. And I'm kind of dreading the day where I'm going to have to play some classic JRPGs to fill in gaps in my knowledge to do an episode on them. But there's clearly a lot of gaps that I wasn't aware of. A lot of slightly more obscure RPGs. And we've done some episodes on Undertale and Deltarune's inspirations, and we'll continue to do more. And one of the games inspiring it that got a shout out was Off, being mentioned as like why Electro Swing is Napstablook's theme. That being sort of the vibe of the original Off soundtrack. And Napstablook being a ghost. And I think that lets us sort of transition to the back half of this episode. This was originally going to be the whole episode, but we didn't have but this stream happened and totally obliterated our plans.
But thanks Toby Fox.
To be
clear, also it was for a good cause.
Yeah, I would rather have the stream. And before we transition, I do want to think about that, because imagine that there's some kids that are going to be getting life-changing medical care and like life-saving medical care because somebody gave money to make a character's name be Togor. And I think that's that's fucking hilarious, man. That's so funny.
It is pretty fucking awesome. Yeah. Shout out to Doctors Without Borders. If you have any money you feel like it, please go support them. Even if there's no Undertale stream in honor of it, support them. Yeah,
and I love contributing when GDQ is doing an MSF, Doctors Without Borders donation, because they're one of the most important organizations. They're one of the best organizations you can contribute to. They're doing work in They're doing work in Gaza. They're doing work all around the world, responding to natural disasters, responding to wars and conflicts and genocide. It's so great to see Toby and the Undertale team and the folks at Fangamer being so supportive of MSF, and just love that.
Yeah.
And we're gonna transition here. We're gonna do some music here, and then move into the second half of our episode. So if you were avoiding spoilers for Off, if you haven't played it yet, you should. It's only about
it's really not that long of a game.
It took me about 5-6 hours, I think, and I was not really like power gaming it or trying to beat it quickly.
Yeah.
And it's a great game. It's not very much money. It's available on Steam, or if you want to spend no money, you can also just play the original version for free. And check out the original soundtrack too. And so we'll see you on the back half of this episode for some talk about Off. The magic of radio, now it's the second half of the episode, even though it took no time at all for us.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Time is an illusion, so you have to trust us on this.
I always think it's weird when I'm listening to a podcast and they do an interview, right? They record the interview, and the interview is like the second half of the episode, but then the hosts record the intro after recording the interview, but the intro's first. I always feel like I'm being sort of I'm being tricked when that happens, that's not you're playing tricks on my sense of time perception. You should be doing it in order.
You have to do it all in order, otherwise my autistic brain will not compute it. I don't know.
This is like I will say it's like obviously most creative works and most even nonfiction works are not created in order because that's demented and insane. You know, but
Yeah, for sure.
this is totally unrelated to the topic at hand, but I was like reading Russell T Davis's, the showrunner of Doctor Who in 2 non-consecutive periods. I was reading his memoir, The Writer's Tale, earlier this year, and he writes teleplays in order, like from start to finish, with very limited editing or returning to earlier scenes. Like he just starts at the first scene and finishes at the last scene, and if he can't get through a scene, he's just stuck. Like the Ratatouille guy. Like if I have writer's block on a scene, then I just die. Like it's like, and that is
yes.
That is such a demented way to write that I respect it so much, but it's so crazy.
No, yeah, like you really just like get stuck. Like you're not just gonna like go further in and like write down the scene that you always wanted to write down, like everyone else. Like, okay, I guess you can just wait until the inspiration gets to you to continue your train tracks here.
Yeah, yeah, let's get back. Let me try to bring us back on topic and talk about Off.
Yes.
So Off is a classic style RPG that first released in 2008. And it was in French then, and then got an official translation into English in 2011. I believe it had a fan translation even prior to that.
There were 3 fan translations to English that were all done by the same person, and that very person is actually the one that was in charge of the English localization for the remaster.
Oh, that's great.
I have to find out what their name was. Quinn K was their name.
I see. And it's like a big, I don't know, it was a big and important thing for indie games and fans of indie RPGs, and so it's kind of inexcusable, but I hadn't played it. I never played it when it originally came out, and so I was pretty familiar with its cultural impact, but I only experienced it when the remake was released earlier this year. And so I'm curious about your experience, because you've played it a long time ago, right? When was the first time you played Off?
So I was okay. So it's relevant to Tumblr. I was on Tumblr during 2013, 2014. So that's roughly around the time that I learned about Off, because certain webcomic that should not be named was on hiatus, and so everyone was like, thirsting for a new thing to get into, and one of those things was Off, which had I believe its second English translation was like circulating around on Tumblr, and people were making crazy fan art for it, and I saw it and was like, this is insanely cool. I would kind of want to like check this out, and it is one of the most fascinating games, I think, to just like go into like completely blind, because it's like it really just feels like a whole different world that's like very surreal in like its presentation and how like the people talk and everything. But
Yeah.
it also is just very, very it really hooks you in despite the surreality of it, and how it's like, oh, this is like something really special, even though like it seems so simple,
And I really appreciate it because I kind of I didn't have any of this context, right? I didn't know any of the fan interpretations. I have ingested exactly 0 Off theory, right, prior to playing. And so as I was playing, I was reacting to it for the first time and, trying to derive meaning from it sort of on its own. And so I think the question of like, what does Off mean has been something that people have been talking about for a long time, right? And so, in Off, you play as the Batter, who is this sort of stoic, figure of violence who's setting out to purify each zone. And each zone is really really strongly themed around different elements of, I would say personally, a productive economy, right? There's the mines, and then there's the farms, and then the post office in the first zone, and then the second there's the library and the amusement park,
and the mall too.
And then in the third zone there's a factory, and the director there, and then the last zone is circulated is around this family, right, of this child and the family that is surrounding this family, and sort of recontextualizes the first few zones. And so I might have been one of the few people who was thinking about French ultraleftist terrorists while I was playing this game.
And which is, fascinating, but like, you go off and cook. Like, I don't know shit about French anything, so like,
so this game is French, right? And
yes.
so this game was released in 2008, and I was playing it sort of knowing that context and knowing about what was going on in the 2000s France, and it was really curious to me because right around like in 2008, like right around that same time, I think it's entirely coincidental. Like I think it's basically entirely coincidental, except for the publication of the 2007 publication and then subsequent 2008 arrest of something called the Coming Insurrection, which is like it's a radical leftist. It's an anarchist text. It's sort of more in the communization path of anarchism. And it's a really influential text on sort of modern radical anarchism. But it posits these 7 circles of like a diagnosis of what's wrong with capitalist civilization, right? It's the 7 circles of alienation.
Oh, right.
And so at the core of it is the self, right? And
yes,
the individual, and then you get entertainment, like life, health, and love. You get the increasing precariousness of work and how work is becoming as fragile as the family.
Right. Yeah.
And as you go out and out and out, like it, the circles become more all encompassing. But this group basically sort of diagnosed that the fundamental sort of connective tissue of society, the aspects that make society run, right? The train lines, the power lines, the exploitative economy, like they have to be sort of torn up whole cloth if there's any hope of abolishing the current order of things and replacing them. And it is believed, or the French state believed, that several authors of this text sabotaged overhead electrical lines on France's national railways. And so the Tarnac 9, they were arrested in rural France for this. They were all acquitted of terrorism charges in this case, partially because they had chosen a method of sabotage that was not injurious to human life, right? It was only damaging to infrastructure, but it didn't cause any danger to people.
It didn't harm anyone physically.
But they were, this was sort of a group of intellectuals who decided to sort of physicalize their resistance to the way things are, right? But that element of like progressing through the circles of modern society, I was thinking about it constantly while I was playing this game, because it felt like you were zeroing in from the hinterlands of the extractive economy, from the mines and the farms, right?
Yes.
You were moving through this connective tissue, the post office, right? And they sort of an analog to the internet, to mass communication technology, into the recreation, right? The bread and circuses, the amusement park that keeps people sated and from being revolutionaries and from recognizing the direness of their system. The system, as you progress sooner, that is literally grinding up corpses into sugar, into sustenance, into the sweetness that is one of the elements powering this setting, right? And then
why are we not dismembering and eating these people?
Right. And right, and it's rotten. It's all rotten, right? But
yeah, of course.
And then you get to the core, and the very, very core of this whole exploitative system and all of the power is the nuclear family.
Yep.
It's the child and the mother and the father, and it's the family itself that determines it. And I obviously, because I'm me, I was thinking about Friedrich Engels as this ending was unfolding. The origin of the family, private property, and the state, right? The original, the sort of the family economics, the original, the postulation that the division of labor starts at home, right? That everything about our exploitative system starts when we, with the division with our traditional gender roles that are imposed, that are not inherent to human society, but are actually a function that is come about as a result of our economic system, right? And like that, the very first division of labor is at home, and it is that like division of labor. It's that nuclear family. It's that oppression of the family that radiates outward into society and is one of the foundations upon which all other forms of exploitation are based upon. And that felt to me like a really core theme of this game, right? That the exploitation, that the horror of the family is where everything else springs from, right?
Yeah, like there's definitely there's definitely evidence of this kind of with like I know like the character dialogue is like kind of weird sometimes to kind of like decipher, but like there's definitely some dialogue choices that like do fit in line with like what you're talking about. Like when you encounter Enoch, he says like all the Guardians, it's my job to mold the Queen Mother's energy into a solid context. So it's like the reason why the zones are the way that they are and why they're being run this way is because it's like, it's Vader Aloha, who is the queen, is like, kind of directing things to be this way for Hugo. And Hugo also created her. So it's like, it's kind of hard to like untangle from like detangle, like how this makes sense. But like, yeah, no, it's like, it's very much tied to like the family structure in that sense. And how like the corruption of like the Zone Guardians, and how they run things. Like it's very interesting because the batter, like it does actually start off as a mission to purify the zones of the specters. Yeah. But then like it's really interesting how like whenever the batter witnesses each of the Guardians like taking shit out on like the Elsin, like the people of the world, and like just being like anytime he witnesses something going wrong because of the Guardians, he immediately is like, okay, new mission, I must destroy them. Like,
yeah.
So it's like it's very, very interesting in that sense, especially since like there's always like been people talking about how like, oh, the batter is like always evil and stuff, but it's like replaying this game, it's like I noticed that like no, he's like reacting to like the corrupted powers that are at play, and like how like Daedon was like verbally abusing someone, Japheth was like basically fucking tormenting all of his citizens with the specters, and Enoch, well, Enoch was doing Enoch stuff with the sugar industry.
Yeah.
And so it's like the batter is like a really, really interesting character, and how like in a sense he kind of like fits like the whole nuclear family father. Yeah. But like he also is like genuinely trying to like in his eyes like trying to kind of like he does generally believe he is purifying the world by doing this. Like he does generally think that things are better this way. Especially since like there's like some implication that like Hugo kind of brought him into existence to end things. Yeah. So the batter's just a really, really fascinating character, and like it is very easy to see that it's really easy to see the influence that Off has on Undertale and Deltarune with the meta stuff that like just like from the very start of the game you just like are immediately aware, hey, you're an entity in this game. People talk to you, people know that you exist. You are separate from the batter, you're controlling the batter. Yeah. So it's like I just love like I don't know.
The batter feels very similar to Chris in that way, right? And Undertale, I think, fakes you out that it's going to be like Off. Originally, it feels like there's actually a diegetic player in Undertale, but my hot take is that the player is non-diegetic in Undertale, except for like one very small part of the like post No Mercy route ending. In general, it is actually Frisk acting in the game. It is not some extra, the player is not really a thing for most of the game.
Yeah, like the player's not really acknowledged in any sort of direct way. Like I guess like to tie it back to like Gerson a little, like I guess like the most direct reference to the player is in the Deltarune prophecy in Undertale as
Yeah.
like the angel. But like that's really it, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of it there.
And the angel, I think, could also be interpreted as being Frisk, as being the last human to fall into the underground and the one who frees them all,
Yes.
right? And so I think there's a little bit of a fake out about it being off, about it being sort of an off type situation with the player character being a puppet. And then, but Deltarune is, the Deltarune does, at least so far, appear to really strongly have this player Chris distinction, where Chris is taking on the role of the batter, and, collaborating or coming into conflict with us. Unlike Chris, the batter has no issue with the arrangement, right? With the batter, the batter is carrying out the mission, with as a full collaborator with us. But I think I think it is important to note that Chris is part of whatever scheme has resulted in us, having control over them, right? And so, despite the conflict that we come into with Chris, there's still an element of collaboration there.
Yeah, like there is an element of like this is necessary, like between like the batter and the player and Chris and the player. Like I think like in the Japanese translation of chapter 4 with the phone call scene in Noah's house, it is like directly stated that Chris cannot go into dark worlds without the soul. So it's like Chris needs the soul in order to go into the dark worlds and seal the fountains and stuff. And Off, obviously like big spoilers for the ending of Off, but like there's a choice where you can like stop controlling the batter and fight alongside the judge and stopping the batter from turning the world off. And it is noted that the batter is like, significantly weaker without us. And also the add-ons are absent when you fight the batter with the judge.
Yeah.
When you decide to like not seize control of the situation anymore, which is really interesting. And it really just kind of like there is still like a level of responsibility that you have over like the batter's actions and stuff. Like obviously like the batter is still like doing these things, like he is like your way of like interacting with the world, but the responsibility is also still on you as well with what happens.
Yeah. And I think it's very interesting, and that's I do want to I'm glad that you sort of see it that way too, where it's not quite so clear cut that Off is a game where you and the batter team up to do bad things. And so it's like you return to these zones after you've purified them, and there's sort of a shock reveal that they're empty, right? They're totally blank. They're devoid of life. And that sucks. I mean, right? Like that, and that's a feeling that's very similar to the No Mercy route or the Weird route, right? That sort of eerie, uncanny vacantness. But these are exploitative situations, and so it's complicated, and I don't know. There is an element of like maybe turning the world off isn't so bad because this is not a great world, and I think maybe euthanasia in this situation for the world that we see for this setting is not the wrong thing. I happily picked that my first time through and thought it was the right thing to do.
And obviously, like, there is no like morality is like a really tough conversation with Off just because of like how we've discussed it so far. But like, yeah, no, it's like it feels bad even if you agree with it. Like it feels, if it dare I say, it feels off.
Yeah.
To pick that sort of ending. Even if you do like agree that like like, hey, Daedon, Japhet, and Enoch were being pieces of shit. Although like Japhet is like the one zone guardian that like makes me like think a lot about about like his character,
Yeah, I mean, and there's that sort of, I mean, okay, actually tell me what you think is going on with Japhet, with Valerie Japhet.
So it's like, obviously we have to like get into like what the world was before Off was made. Like the chapter I made 3 friends today in the room, like it's revealed that like the world before this was like like post-apocalyptic. We still don't fucking know what happened and stuff, but like it's clear that it was there was Hugo, there was Daedon, there was Japhet, and there was Enoch, and all three of the soon-to-be Zone Guardians, like, are like trying to help Hugo and like try to like. There's a tragedy in this situation where it's like they both generally wanted to make a better world for Hugo because Hugo's like a baby, but then like somewhere along the way, like all three of them just kind of like just lost their lost what was important, including the queen, which the batter does call her out on. Like you were so busy making a birthday party, you forgot who it was for.
Yeah.
So it's like I think all three, I guess all four Zone Guardians, and I'm including Queen in this situation, like are all like, like my brain is skipping like trying to like explain this because you put everything that you said in such like concise words and I'm just like stumbling. But like it is clear that like all four of them like they had a motivation that was genuinely good, but then at some point they like really got lost in the power sauce, basically, if that makes sense.
And to be clear, I'm not saying to people listening that Off is literally about French terrorism and Engels and and you're wrong if you don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I'm saying that's what it made me think of because I do think it's very clearly about the abolition of the current order of things, right? And it's a game about the struggle, right, of the things that we do in the name of providing for the next generation in our current society are extremely exploitative, right? And, in pursuit of that quality of life for our children, we're often unknowingly, feeding corpses into a machine, right? Like, and I think it's a game about evaluating those relationships with extraction and exploitation and hitting them with a baseball bat really hard until they go away.
Yep, exactly. And sometimes that's just a solution to things. Especially like even in like the context of like the game, like you're not really allowed many opportunities to flee from enemies. So
yeah,
like I think like the only time to like run away in the game is like to get away from Enoch, and that's like purely strategic. It's like like the first Enoch fight is like he's literally invincible. Like there's nothing you can do. You have to flee.
Yeah. And it's like, and speaking of, we've been talking so much about the game's themes and its writing that we haven't talked much about the gameplay. I'm not usually a big RPG head because I hate grinding. And so when I like an RPG, I think it maybe carries a bit of weight when I say that because I loved it. I thought the gameplay was super tight. Like playing it without grinding at all, you're always kind of on the skin of your teeth, and it feels really satisfying to try to beat everything.
Yeah.
Really, really cool battle system. Unbelievably slick. I mean, it looks so good. It sounds so good.
As someone who played the original Off beforehand, the battle system is like it feels so much better. But also it is in many ways. Yes, they changed it from the original. Like the original, like there was like an auto button that you could click on, and also like the stats like went into like the quadruple digits. So it's like so they basically really toned down like attacks and defenses and like the competence points in this release in order to make it seem more balanced. And also that means that I've died more in these fights than I did ever in the original. Yeah. Especially with like in the remaster, there's like these new secret bosses which are all really really cool. But also I personally really like grinding because that means big number go up, and then by the time I got to like by the time I got through like the secret bosses, I was definitely like over leveled. But they were fun. They were really interesting, and I really like those like new bosses that were added in the games. Like they feel very fitting, and I like the extra content that was added to like these purified zones and stuff.
I don't think I saw any of that, so I've got to go back and play that.
You should go back. I clocked out. I clocked out at the Off remaster at like 11.5 hours, getting every achievement. So.
I'll take a look. I'm familiar with obviously the soundtrack. The original soundtrack is iconic, and I had heard a number of tracks from it even without playing Off before.
Yes.
And here's what I'll say: the whole time I was playing the new game, I thought this rips. This sounds great.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of there's new tracks by Toby Fox, there's new tracks by James Roach, who
Camellia
yeah,
also
Camellia,
made sense too.
Night Margin, Marusk, Exaha, and Banshee Beat as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought just
Ava Hexa, I think,
yeah,
also.
and I thought just a awesome sound. Fits the vibe of the original without just being sort of a rote, just paint by numbers remake. I dug it a lot. I thought it
Yeah.
was really cool. I did think it was funny when
Yeah.
I got to the amusement park and I heard this sort of like carnival-ish sound, and I was like, "That's James. That's
Yeah.
James. I know a James
Yeah,
track when I hear it."
I thought the exact same thing when I went to the amusement park area and I heard like the first note and I was like, oh, I got James Roach jump scared.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like the newest soundtrack is honestly really good. And there's actually even some tracks that I prefer over the original. Not that the original isn't like good, obviously. Like the original is like it can never be replaced. Because it's like off isn't just Mortis Ghost game, it is also something that he created alongside alias Conrad Coldwood as well. So his soundtrack was like I can understand a lot of fans like hesitancy and like being sad about like his soundtrack not being a part of the remaster, but at the same time it's like it's not going anywhere. And also, like, there's already like a mod of the game that replaces the soundtrack with his music for free. So it's like you can just like play the remaster and have the music back if you want. So it's like, I don't know. I really like the new soundtrack. I really like Toby Fox's songs. I really like, but personally, I think my favorites are Marusk's tracks. I think his tracks are like the most fitting for like Off's atmosphere, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I really respect like not wanting to sort of sign your work over to a company, even an indie company. If I have one regret in my life, it's I kind of wish I hadn't done that ever.
Yeah. So it's completely respectable and understandable that Coldwood did not want to like contribute his songs to the remaster. Even if he would have gotten some like profit off of it, like it makes sense to like not have like copyright, kind of like taint something that you really love and people really love. So I respect Coldwood for not wanting to do that, and that gives the new music team a great opportunity to like kind of like show their love for Off retrospectively through making music for the game, even if it is a little intimidating to do that. I know Toby Fox like said that like he felt like he was kind of like editing himself into like an old family photo, I believe is how he phrased it.
Yeah, I talked about this when it came out, and I can relate to this experience maybe more than many people out there of this sort of strange sort of retroactive insertion into something that really influenced you as an artist is a really really bizarre feeling, and the one that is kind of hard to shake how uncanny and strange it is.
Yeah, but personally, as a good normal Off fan, I think the new soundtrack is good and fine, and that people should stop complaining.
Yeah.
And like try to appreciate things that are new and different, like alongside the old and the beloved, like
Yeah.
I like it when different things are added and new things are added, because it means that like the game is still alive,
Absolutely. And I think that's such a great bookend with the first part of this stream about, Undertale 10 years in and how that's still a living thing that's constantly changing. And I think that's a great place to sort of wrap it here. I mean, I think we probably could have done a whole other hour on Off, and maybe one day we will. But
maybe one day. It is a little bit of a shame that like we had to like cut it to like half hour.
Yeah, once I do the secret bosses, maybe we'll come do a bonus episode. I think that'd be fun.
Yes. That would be fun, yes.
And so Neptune, thank you so much for coming on. Do you have anything you want to plug?
I mean, if you want to follow me on my socials, I'm at Silent Neptune everywhere basically. If you want to, I draw Sometimes. I mean, I draw, but sometimes I post them, and sometimes I don't. So
I mean, you,
I
you
don't
did some
know.
wonderful
That's
art for the last game that I was a co-director of, and so I really appreciate that. So don't sell yourself
yes.
short.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Kate. But yeah, that's all I have to plug in there.
Yeah, so I guess I'll plug that. Play Snowbound Blood, and you can see me and Neptune working together.
Yes, yes. Good times, really good times.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. I'll see you in the outro.
Hmm.
All right, thanks so much for listening. Check the link in the description to join the show's Discord, where we live blogged that Undertale stream. It was a ton of fun to get to chat about that with you guys. Keep up with the latest news and updates, talk about our theories, share fan content. Really enjoyable place to be. You can listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. There's also on a YouTube channel. Feel free to leave a comment on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. I don't really check in on those super often. I stick around in the Discord mostly, but it's always nice to see comments from folks. You can play Neptune and many other people's games, Snowbound Blood, including music by James Roach, who's one of the artists on the game Off, the remaster. At the link in the description, that is free. And you should follow our guest Neptune on social media. You can check it out there, and you can check out the website for the show at groupashrike.net. /survey program. I'm pretty sure that's it. Join us next week. We are going to do a special secret episode about the most important character in Deltarune, so get excited for that.
Group Shrike Amalgamated General Productions GmbH